So this is class 154, the Golden Doves. We're studying about textuality and rabbinic tradition. I just, again, don't want to get our minds off what happened in Israel and the brutality and now the madness around the world. It just shows that human beings are fundamentally illogical and irrational and incapable of coherent thinking. It's so interesting to see, amazing. They had Jews protesting in favor of Hamas yesterday, in favor of Palestinians, which is essentially the same thing. Just amazing to see this, how far the human mind can take us into the belly of the beast of sheer madness. So there's that. But now, let's read. We're on page 85. One of the fundamental premises of this study is the view of Shadid HaGaon. So my father believes, and has demonstrated how there's connections between Rav Shadid HaGaon, Rav Aryeh Gaon, and then the traditions of Chachmei Andalusia, primarily Harambam. So he draws that line a lot. And Rav Shadid HaGaon and Igerat Shadid HaGaon, he discusses a lot of the fundaments related to the Torah Shebe'al Peh. So this study of my father will follow Rav Shadid HaGaon. Following the Gaonic historiography, he viewed the destruction of Beter as a turning point for the Jewish people, and as the beginning of the rabbinic movement leading to the foundations of the Mishnah and the Talmud. So very interesting. So he makes an association between the destruction of Beter and the days of Bar Kokhba. So after the destruction of the first temple in 68 AD, there was a Mered Bar Kokhba, and the destruction of Beter, as the continuing Jewish revolutions against the Romans, and it was just a complete massacre. It was many of the Hachamim were just brutally murdered, and so it was a turning point for the Jewish people, because it was clear that the Jewish political institutions were not returning. So there would be no more Sanhedrin, for example, or the Sanhedrin would now take a limited role, and certainly was on the wane, let's put it that way. So this led to some of the thinking of Akiba related to or rather, it allowed for the continuation of Akiba's thinking on the matter, and really that was seen as the only alternative to the institution of the Sanhedrin. The principal figure in this movement was Akiba. He was a spokesman of a new ideology, the official formulation of the old tradition. You didn't need an official formulation of the old tradition. If you have the Sanhedrin, you have the Sanhedrin. They know what the law is. Yeah, they study the law. You don't need an official, how do I know what the law is? The Sanhedrin will say, this is the law. Right? But comes to the Akiba says, from now we're going to have an official formulation. People were taken aback at that, right? The full ramifications of this ideology are too numerous, and its impact upon the Jewish people too great to be adequately examined here. I mean, this was a complete mind shift. It was a complete, almost a rupture of the old ways with respect to Jewish history, right? So my father's not going to examine all of the ramifications of this, right? But here, he's going to examine it at the educational level. Educationally, it meant that the teachers had to transmit the traditions of the rabbis, not in their own words, but according to the official formula. So from now on, if I'm teaching halakha, I don't just teach the talmidim however I want to teach them. I'm not talking about content. We understand the content is what the content is. We're talking about the formulation of the law. Now there was going to be set formula which will be used to teach the law to others. And these set formula will also become authoritative. Okay, this type of teaching required the establishment of a new institution in the person of the Tanna, whose task was the authoritative transmission of the official formulation. So now you have Tanaim. Why do you have Tanaim? The Tanaim are those people, right, who would officially transmit, or rather would authorize to transmit the official formulations of the oral law. Semantically, it meant that the teachings of the rabbis must be grasped first verbally rather than conceptually. Very interesting. So normally you try to understand something, right? So, you try to understand the concepts. And then after you understand the concepts, you try to formulate the concepts, right? Here it was the other way around. First, they taught the laws. And then after they taught the laws, they would teach the concepts, right? So, getting back to the Mishnah, Masechet Bava Kama, Arba'a Avot Nezegim Hashol, Ve'abol, Ve'amav'eh, Ve'ayveh, Lo Arei Hashol, Karei Amav'eh, Ve'lo Arei Amav'eh, Karei Hashol. So it's I'm starting with these words. What do the words mean? And then I begin to understand the concepts behind the words. Right? Politically, it was an acknowledgement made tragically clear by the defeat of Bar Kokhba and his followers that the Jews were not about to restore the old seats of power and authority. They understood that it's over. Nationally speaking, politically speaking, it's over. After the defeat of Bar Kokhba was so unbelievable that there was no coming back at that point in time. Ironically, there was an intimate relationship between Rabbi Akiba's support of Bar Kokhba's Messianic revolution and the situation that made acceptance of Akiba's ideology imperative for national survival. So it's almost like Hikdim Refu ala Makkah. On the one hand, Rabbi Akiba was the one who started with this idea of Tana'im and official formulations of the oral law. And on the other hand, he's the one who supported Bar Kokhba, which brought about the historical circumstance necessitating Rabbi Akiba's movement of the formulation of the oral law. As a result of that uprising, thousands were slaughtered, and there remained very few who knew the old traditions, right? The rabbis taught, and here's a quote from the Sifrei: if one has heard an authoritative tradition from the lowliest Israelite, he must consider it as if he had actually heard it from a great sage. Beforehand, this was irrelevant. There was no lowly Israelite who would tell me what the halakha is. I'm not interested in what he has to say. Who are you? The Sanhedrin, go to the Sanhedrin, go to the Batei Dinim. These people are authorized to speak of the halachas. But now they have these official formulations. The authority is not in the person, it's in the words. It's in the composition, rather. So the authority is in the composition. So even if a lowly Israelite mentions that composition, that has authority. Right? And he should consider it not only as if he heard it from a single sage, but as if he had actually heard it from all the sages. And not only as if he had heard it from all the sages, but as if he had actually heard it from the Sanhedrin, because again, the authority no longer lies in the Sanhedrin, because the Sanhedrin was on the way down, right? So now the authority of the Sanhedrin will be transmitted to these official formulation. And not only as if he had heard it from the Sanhedrin, but as if he had actually heard it from Moses, the shepherd. And not only as if he had heard it from Moses, the shepherd, but as if he had actually heard it from the mouth of God, blessed be he. So that's a quote from the Sifrei.